Hi, my name is Mary Catherine Kenney, and this is my project on would a vegan diet actually be more sustainable? So when I was growing up, I remember a lot of public service things that we were required to learn in school, such as reduce, reuse, recycle, and to conserve water. But growing up and learning more about the climate crisis getting worse every year, I realized that these things are actually very minuscule, like owning a reusable water bottle. It doesn't really do much for the climate if you're still being an avid consumer in the things that we're going to talk about today. And one of those things is ruminant meat products like cattle and so when you think of cattle, you think of cows, deer. These animals have a digestive system in which they compartmentalize their stomach. Like they have like 4 stomachs because they need to eat roughage, and the gases that they release is like pure carbon, methane, nitrous oxide into the environment that only makes the greenhouse effect worse. And we'll talk about that. So meat's carbon footprint is almost entirely in land use and farming. Wow, shocker. So we see these would be non-ruminant products like pork, chicken, fish, and then your very popular vegan items like tofu and peas. So this would consist of a non-ruminant diet. This is ruminant diet right here. Beef, lamb, and beef used for dairy. And packaging, transport, processing. These foods down here, non-ruminant and vegan foods, have lower packaging costs, and the highest ones are up here for meat and dairy products. So I looked at a study comparing the diets, and this is very interesting. So this is our projected view, this black line right here. Annual emissions, million tons of nitrous oxide, million tons of carbon in the environment, and this red line is non-ruminant. So that would just mean stuff like pork, chicken, fish, and this green line right here is vegan diet, and they are very close on this one, the one's a million tons of carbon. They're very close. So we can see that, going back to this one, if you don't even necessarily have to be vegan to lower these gases in the environment that are a major contributor to the greenhouse effect. So my thesis, therefore, would be that a vegan diet excluding all animal products would be the most sustainable in lowering global GHG emissions, so that's greenhouse gas emissions, and that consumers should consider a reduction of ruminant animal products, as it could already be a near consequence of resource expenditure in meeting the population's large demand. So that's like what we learned about in the environmental philosophy class today, that our population will increase way larger than our ability to meet food demand. So, and this is on the 2-degree target. So more on that is basically it's an international climate policy that we must stay below more than 2 degrees Celsius of global temperature. So this graph is since 1880. So the goal is basically to have it be 2 degrees, stay below 2 degrees post-industrial. So post-industrial, when the Industrial Revolution, we know about that huge population boom, and we need to feed all these people, but we're not doing a very good job in making sure we can do that and making sure we're still taking care of the environment. So here is a major problem, the efficiency problem. So the percent of land replaced with forests, I have a picture right here. So 85% of rainforest degradation is for growing animal feed or grazing, and we see a lot of it right here in the Amazon rainforest. But for only every 100 calories fed to livestock, we get just 17 to 30 in the form of meat and milk. So it's very low efficiency because these crops could just be fed to people instead of animals, and this land could be farmland to feed people. It's wasteful not just for these crops, but for the land, water, and energy used to grow them. And these are the consequences that we're seeing already that are only going to get worse if we can't reach this staying below 2 degrees over the industrial level. So, rising sea levels lead to an increase in climate refugees. We see this now. Refugees aren't just for war, they're for the land that has gone underwater, suffered droughts, hurricanes, severe climate disasters because of climate change and the greenhouse effect. And we're seeing a huge intake in the West of mass immigration. And stuff like this, if this continues, I think everybody should be able to live in the land that they were born in, considering it doesn't need to have all these problems because of climate change. And we're seeing in the U.S. too, in these facilities that manufacture a large amount of livestock, they're not very good at getting rid of manure waste, so it ends up in the water supply. It turns into ammonia in soil, transfers to nitrates in drinking water. And these two things directly impact marginalized communities because most often they put the livestock factories in poor communities that can't necessarily move out. And if they move out, their property taxes aren't really going to increase anymore because of this going on. And of course, marginalized communities, people have to move out because of the climate crisis. So I just want to reiterate, major national disasters, rainforest degradation, and pollution of water supply. This affects everybody in the world. This will affect the governments, the policies, and the politics of every single nation in the world. Because we have hurricanes, drought, and small islands going underwater. Like here we see in Italy, some parts of India over there. But these droughts are major things because if you can't, in America, if we have a drought, we're told to conserve water. In Africa, if you have a drought, well, your crops aren't going to grow, your communities will die, or you will need to move out. Move up here, move over here to countries with a higher GDP so you can work for them. But then you get there and a lot of people hate you for something that you had no control over. But we have control over our diets and what we can do to help the environment. You don't even have to be vegan. So this is my point. You don't have to be vegan to help out with this, but you can push aside the meat and dairy industry to do your part in climate change, because having a reusable water bottle isn't doing enough. Thanks, that is my presentation.